Hello everybody, I'm Harry Thompson.
I'm Michael Hopper, I'm the animator. Hello.
Alright, and today we're going to be starting a small series in which we're going to be showcasing to you the process of creating a character. We're going to start out with the character you're going to see most, Meep. This series is going to go past the Go-Go, one way or the other. It's going to be part of showcasing various animations, effects, backgrounds, and all the pieces. And additional things that we don't cover in here if you sign up for a $60 deal pack, and you also get some decision making, various small little details with some of the enemies if you wish. It's a very exciting time. Right now we got 14 days left on the initial Go-Go. I've showcased some of the gameplay to you, and I've showcased some of the really exciting just proof of programming and that the animations work and stuff. We haven't been able to, and I even showcased you some of the old. I even showcased you an older build of the demo. And right now we're working on here. I said it in the earlier video. I would not give you the old demo because to do so would be like giving you an action figure that doesn't have the hand. Because there are two sections where the flamethrower doesn't work, and there are certain enemies that should be in there that aren't. And I don't want to do that to you. I feel that's a disservice. I have friends who disagree with me. I feel that I'm doing a disservice to you, the audience, if I do that to you. So what I'm doing instead for you is showcasing to you all the things, as we said in the video, prepare for an upgrade of everything. So today we're going to be looking at Meep, and we're going to be starting the flying animation, and we're going to be working on, and well, Margaret's going to be working on that, and we're going to be talking a little bit about gameplay, Meep's flight, that sort of stuff. Margot, let's start off. Now, in the original version of Meep's flight, it looked off to some people, but it was based more off of actual bat flight pattern with the wings. I take it you changed it up to more of an avian type bird flapping, or did you keep some of the old
Well, not exactly. I mean, I did it like, I kept most of it. I tried to stay as close to the old as possible, but it kind of turned out looking a little different. Like, Meep kind of looks like he's like swimming through space, like doing the, I don't know anything about swimming moves, but doing that basic stroke where he's like, like flailing his arms ahead of him to get forward.
Yeah.
Like, if you open up the animation in Flash, let's see if I can make something out of this. Hang on. There we go. And, okay, if I can, like, in Flash or something, import to the stage, and
Sure, but it seems we have a sound problem. Don't worry. Hopefully that should get fixed soon. I apologize. Margot, you there?
There are so many things I want to say about this mic, but I'm watching.
Alright.
So I kind of messed up on that one. No, not Action Script is one. I don't want that.
As you can see, we're back. So sorry about the delay on that. But you can kind of see that we have all the. If I'm looking at this correctly, you have all the animations kind of sectioned off in their own little sections, so it's easier for Alexander to make the code implementations when it starts being implemented.
Exactly. And, okay, I implemented the test in. I'm going to set it on loop. And the program I'm using right now is Adobe Flash CS 6, I believe. It's a nice program, and I use it for testing my animations primarily. If you look at the animation here, there's only one frame that's colored, and that's why it looks kind of weird. But anyway, this is like, like, when I saw me, he, like, had his wings, like, going forward and then backward, a circular motion. So, I based it off of that.
I gotta say,
now,
I do like it, but one of the things that in the back of my mind just happened, and I want to share it with the audience, is if you can imagine a table in front of Meep when he's doing that animation, or we don't really know what Meep is, it's a space bat. But if you can just picture that, just the concept of table in space, then Meep flips table with wings.
Yeah, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard some people call that the sexual frustrating desk flip. I don't know why.
That's thing.
Yeah, I don't know why it's called that, but I've heard it referred to as that like multiple times. Let's see. If I could find my style, it'd be wonderful. There it is.
One of the things I like about this current version of Meep is the look that Meep actually has emotions. If you look at the old image of Meep, Meep didn't have pupils. And this was kind of disturbing. No, the original version of Meep just kind of had like a black dot with like a little sparkle in like the center. Not that there's anything wrong with that style, but with here, we can kind of actually showcase more emotion with the art. And I think that that's really important because while everything's being drawn pretty big, mostly it's going to be the programmer that's going to be playing with sizes to make sure, that it looks good when, inevitably shrinking happens in order to make room for, all sorts of stuff on the screen. Not too much stuff because, again, like I said, as much as my original demo had literally like moments where towards the end you'd run into like an army of enemies, you still it went kind of against the cardinal reason why I'm making this game. And that's kind of the thing that I like about where Meep is going with the whole new art style that you bring to the new design for Meep, is that Meep now has the ability to look frustrated, look sad, look angry, look, just absolutely determined and happy, like Meep normally looks. But there's...
Yeah, when I like...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's definite expanded direction.
There's what?
That can be taken... Expanded direction. There's an expanded direction with the emotional impact that Meep can have. I'm not expecting Shakespeare, but, I like it when I can look at the thing that I'm playing on screen and I say, yeah, I know how that thing is feeling. I think one of the perfect examples of this, there was an old sci-fi game, which I'm not going to name by name, but it was one of... It's very popular. It has live action actors, and it was popular back in the 90s. But for reasons, I'm not going to mention it by name. But the thing about it was that if you died in that game, your character, they held a whole military funeral cutscene. You didn't just get a game over. No. They literally said, no, this was a character. You pressed the wrong button. You moved at the wrong time. You were wasteful with your resources. And this is on your hands. That is the most extreme I have ever dealt with when it comes to a game over and making me feel for the character. And I really think that emotion in a character is important. Yeah. That's kind of why I'm excited about, the direction that you're taking things.
Yeah, obviously there's not going to be a funeral cutscene for when Meep, I guess dies, but, you're still going to feel for Meep. Meep is cute. Meep is expressive. At least now he's expressive.
Yeah. Excuse me. I really like the way you did the wings. You didn't minimalize certain key details that some people would. And that makes Meep feel more like a creature, like an actual thing. I also like that you kept the little dealy boppers, but didn't quite make them as ridiculous as in the original.
Yeah, I figured those could, serve as, I make all the time, guys, about the characters I'm designing, even if they're not my own.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I really get into something with a character, like I've added a few things to the, like, space bat species lore.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of them is, that some space bats have these little circles on top of their heads that to serve as, like, signal beacons. Like, hearing type things. And, bats are all about hearing, so...
Mm-hmm. So a space bat would have enhanced hearing. And thus, the space bat not only has the normal, very good hearing ears that a bat gets, but also gets basically kind of like a spidey sense sort of thing. Because the little dealy boppers, which basically kind of feel vibrations around the area, which explains why Meep is able to be so adept at just kind of maneuvering around enemies that, have these things like cannons and ninja stars and these high-flying kicks and, laser mops of all things and just toxic slime coming out of nowhere and being able to deal with, sensing these approaching enemies.
If you guys are wondering why I added this dark fill, it's because it is basically an artist's trick for making sure the color is all there. Because Meep's going to be flying against a lot of backgrounds, and some of them are going to be dark. What I'm doing is I'm working with a dark light background to make sure everything's presentable. Because even if Meep is at 250 by 250 pixels, I still can't handle in, like, having color difficulties. Because I'm one of those perfectionist artists.
Well, yes, and it's one of the things that I like about you is your attention to the contrast in color and details. I never really understood that, and it's kind of like plugging someone else's station, but no, it's really true. This is the person who really made it, for me, a thing. There was say what you want about what he may feel, but Ego Raptor, and Game Grumps and a couple other things, but he did a really interesting program called Sequelitis. The concept was to compare the first game and the second game and look at them objectively. While he definitely had some strong feelings about Simon's Quest, the thing which I definitely took away from that was something which I didn't really think about as a kid, and I thought about it as an adult after I watched the video, and I'm like, this guy's right. It's not just that contrasting colors are important because it's easier on the eyes, it's because contrasting colors make things pop out more. They make you pay attention, and there's never a moment where you're going to look... Margo, I'm pretty sure you'll back me on this, but, whether it's you or Sean or anybody, I've always been very intense on the whole concept of the background needs to be in a specific color, so that way the enemies that are in that area will be clear to see, as will the player's sprite.
Yeah, I mean, my friend and I, he was actually the guy who, kind of got me and my boyfriend together. We've been friends for like 13 years. He actually introduced me to a game series called Chowaniki, and it was the weirdest game series I had ever seen. But anyway, basically, some of the background, because you're flying through this area, and there's nothing but a field of men in the background, and you're like, what am I supposed to pay attention to the background or what's going on in the foreground? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know exactly.
And yes, there were ferrymen, I'm not lying.
Oh yeah, I believe you. Space shooters sometimes have some very weird backgrounds, and that's kind of why I chose the design I did for Meep, because when it came to the type of games, I had like 4 or 5 games in the back of my head, but the game that I chose to start with was Meep the Space Bat, and the reason for that is actually threefold. One is because I felt Meep would be a concept that everybody could get behind. I have a couple friends who also do game design, and while their games are pretty cool, the thing is that up until recently, they never really had anything that, if you were a kid, you could play. And by a kid, I mean a person under the age of 10. Meep is like, a person who's like, 5, who's starting to understand gaming, could break their teeth on Meep. But a person who's like, in their late 30s, early 40s, who was there back during the era of arcades, they could also really enjoy Meep because, Meep has kind of this whole old school retro Space Invaders feel. And I started realizing that, the character itself has a nice potential to really make a lot of you people out there happy. And when I looked at that, I said, okay, I think this is the project I want to start with. I looked at the fact that it also would help a lot of my team members, get kind of a, and this is kind of the second reason, it'd help a lot of my team members get kind of a grasp on, basically how animations and code affect each other. Because animating in itself is complicated. And, damn it, please hold while the internet proceeds to try and be an internet. Right now, it's being a potato. I like potatoes. Do you like French fries? I think French fries are cool. Are we back?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, the internet's going to be a bit wonkish, so buckle up. Unless things get really weird, we're still going to go to 2:30, folks. But it's okay. This is not a regular thing. It's just because it's raining and location thing. So yeah, the second thing was I wanted my coders and my programmers to get used to basically, and my animators, everybody, I wanted them to all get used to how animation and coding relate to each other. Because while independently, I know everybody on my team knows how to do their things, they don't know how each other relates to each other. Your arm isn't sentient, but the bones in your arm that are attached to your wrist, that make your hand move, they're all independent pieces, but they all move, and you don't think about it. When you move your arm, it's a wonderful feeling, and it's so complex. I myself have had my shoulder broken around 6 times. When I was doing exercise to make it to where I could move my shoulder again, I realized how complicated that movement is. That's kind of the thing, is Margot can do coding, but she doesn't like to. Also, she doesn't know as much as my actual coding. Yeah. So, there's that. Sean, I don't think Sean would ever want to do coding. He doesn't need to know every single thing about HTML and Java and, C++ and C# or whatever. He doesn't need to know that. All he needs to know is basically what his art style does and just do it and be happy. It's kind of the thing is, when I looked at Meep, I saw something that would be a good teaching experience and would allow for everybody who, previous until this point, had just basically done their own independent thing and not really worked completely as a team for more than just kind of a series of maybe short projects, but nothing really big. So far, I've really enjoyed what I've seen, and I hope you are as well. Yeah, that's the second reason. Third reason why I did Meep is because I looked around, and I've kind of said this before in other videos, but it's true. I've looked around, and maybe it's just because I don't live across seas, or I'm not finding enough, but most of the space shooters that I find are either really easy or memorize the pattern not to die. And I'd like to make something that's got better pacing than that. And there's also some things that I want to put into Meep that you've kind of seen us do in the demo video on our website, such as switching between weapons and such. Margot, up until Meep, did you ever play any space shooters like Gradius or, Space Invaders, any of that sort of thing?
Well, I did play Space Invaders once. Actually, a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
On my friend's Atari, I think.
Oh, very cool.
It's a really interesting game. I think it was the first game to implement the, whole, instead of shooting at where I was, you should have shot at where I was going to be.
Yeah.
Thing.
It is definitely the first one that made it in the mainstream. I've always liked that. Yeah, in some of the space shooters back in the early 80s, and even kind of a decent chunk of them today, there's this scenario which I've seen happen to many people, and I'm going to just tell you the small little thing. I'm not going to use specific terms. And I guarantee if you're listening to this is going to take you back, and I apologize if this brings back a bad memory. So you got your fully powered up whatever, okay? And you fully power it up by getting a good score, killing just the right amount of things, and getting just the right amount of drops. You have your weapon. You're about to go against the boss. You kill an enemy, and the enemy dies so quickly that a power-up goes and touches your ship, your character, tank, whatever. And then you go back to level 1 of weapon that you didn't have, and you lose all the upgrades that you got previously. That ain't cool. And that's the type of stuff that, when I'm making meep, I'm hoping to improve. Because, see, if that happened in, say, a first-person shooter, you'd pick the weapon up, and then it would go in a separate slot. And I could switch that weapon if I wanted. I wouldn't lose any of my progress on the other weapon. This is kind of where there are a couple space shooters that do have this, but they are very rare to find, where you have an all hand-drawn, hand-animated style of visual. And that's kind of what I've always wanted to go for. So as I look and see meep being created here, it really fills me with a sense of joy to see that, starting to get that sort of old school animation style implemented into a game. Because once these animations finish and you watch the remaining 9 videos on meep, you're going to see within these next couple days a series of various small shorts in which will be showing you, sections of the animation, and, you'll see basically a good majority of the step-by-step process, the creation of the character. When we have all those animations, all those things done, I'll let your imagination think about the realized possibilities and dreams. For now, though, we're going to take a small break, and we'll be back.